Great.
All right, good evening, everyone. Today is July 16th, 2024. We now have the Shellfish Advisory Commission. We have a quorum this evening. Roll call, we have Dawn Geddes, Anjo Jackson, Francina, Manel Samard, Rebecca Visnick, and myself, Tony Morowski. I'm the chair, and we have a quorum. We shall begin our meeting. Our first item on the agenda is the approval of minutes from our last meeting on May 21st, 2024.
So moved. I'll second that.
All right, second, any discussion?
Looks good to me.
All right, so what I tried to do is, go over or actually watch the meeting online and pull off all the major bullet points, any types of discussions, votings, things like that. It's nice to.
We're watching it, isn't it?
Yeah, and now I have to listen to myself talk.
Yeah.
It's something I haven't done really.
Yeah, I'm
ever.
glad I don't have to do it.
But it is a nice advantage to have that now, other than having have to actively take notes while we're at the meeting.
Yeah.
Or record. So it's fairly easy to put together. No discussion, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, unanimous, meeting minutes have been approved. All right, the next item on the agenda is an update of enforcement and management.
I do have some good news. We are in the interview process for a deputy. So that's really good. Hopefully I will have help by, what is it, mid-July? Early August,
That'd be nice.
hopefully,
It's like full-time deputy,
yes.
excellent.
Yeah, and then, of course, my new supervisor is Chris Lucido, which is also great news.
Are you the constable now?
Yes.
All right.
Oh, yeah, I guess that's another
you-
update officially.
yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, that was my next question.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah, so that's all good stuff. We'll be back to full force. They have sworn in a bunch of the assistant harbor masters. I think they did that right around Fiesta, which of course was followed by the 4th of July. So some of them are more familiar than others, but hopefully, in the coming weekends, when they have a lot of staff, I can get out and I've been doing some shellfish patrols with harbor masters to kind of get them a little bit more familiar and having them drop me off on flats and pick me up, which has been really nice. So we're doing some cross training, which is great. Another positive news is that when I was removing one of the beaver dams at the herring run yesterday during the apocalypse thunderstorm, I did see my first ever teeny tiny baby herring moving out. So we're +1 on this year. So we do have baby herring moving out. So for the next few weeks, it'll be big time making sure that stream is clear as well, so that we can get everybody who's hatched and is ready to move back out, access to the ocean. Yeah, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then outside of that, recreational harvesting has been extremely busy, especially on the surf clam side of things on Winter Shake Beach. Especially on the weekends, especially double tides, AM tides and PM tides have been busy. Like really, it looks like the entire swim area is just people taking clams. So it's been hard to manage for one person, but I have been just spending my time waiting in the water, checking permits and stuff like that. And 9 times out of 10, everyone's permitted or is with a relative that is permitted, which ideally every adult would have their own day permit, but at least there seems to be, as the years go on, more and more compliance and more understanding of the rules. So it's snowballing in the right direction. I don't know if this year seems extra busy, maybe because news traveled that there was some turnover and more people are coming, or if it's just gotten more popular. So that has been keeping me extremely busy. Really excited to get a deputy. out there.
There are
Sure.
With me.
We have a lot of
I'm
rec
sure.
permits
A
this summer.
ton of them, yeah, a lot of day permits. The year-round permits is usually like a big rush rate that first week, because they don't get the grace period. Theirs are expiring, and then because they're recreational, they can apply all year. So usually it's the month of July where people are like, oh, yeah, my permit. So it's checking, really being diligent about checking the rec diggers that I'm very familiar with, that I know have permits, but because it's a new year, just making sure that everyone has has theirs and is, all up to snuff. I have heard from commercial people that doesn't appear that there was a good seating for soft shells this year,
There's not much out there.
and that there's not a whole lot out there. So that's a real big bummer. Good news is that there's razor clam seed. Hopefully it grows quickly so that can provide some relief. Hopefully it's just a down year, and the next year or two, it'll spring back up. That has seemed to keep the price a little high. But if there's not weight, then.
Maybe we see it in the fall.
Hopefully,
That's possible.
hopefully, yeah.
Less pressure on the flats.
And the water's been so cold that it could just be that maybe things are moving slower. Trying to think, we helped Department of Marine Fisheries host a fishing clinic here, a free fishing clinic for families. That went really well, so it wasn't shellfish specific, but at least it was getting people down here and engaged in fishing of some sort, so that was really great. Mass Oyster Project has their upweller going. The oysters are gonna be finding an alternative home this year, just because I couldn't manage that process just as one person with patrol, so taking a year off.
I actually I spoke to somebody and I asked about Mill River, because that's where they've been dumping them, and she
Yeah.
said they're not taking them.
No, Gloucester is not, for oysters, not particularly the best
Mm,
spot, because the water flushes so fast out of that culvert.
right,
And by the time the oysters are seeded, they're not putting on any more shells, they're not attaching to anything.
mhm,
And then they just get, Mill River ices up
mhm.
like crazy. So it's not an ideal species. And there's not an ideal place for them, because they don't really like mud.
Right,
So it's tough, so we're gonna take a year off. They're still doing all the education and public outreach next door with the upweller, they're just gonna find an alternative home this year.
Yep.
Until we can get a functional department.
Right.
And hopefully, if they find a place where it
Find a good
seems that
site, yeah.
they really take well, that would be great too. So either way, at least the education is happening. I think that is all I have for updates.
Okay,
That's it.
sure. Any other discussion?
Yeah,
It's moving along really well.
I mean,
this
things
evening,
are
yeah.
happening, so.
Yeah, I mean, we're in kind of the thick of the summer, so. From what I hear, there's not a lot of diggers out there.
No, it's been few and far between, the same kind of handful of guys. Oh, yeah. Big thing, the FDA audit, that's happening, first week of
Yes.
August. How could I forget? So DMF is continuing just to get, organized, making sure our definitions are clear and make sense with the boundaries that we have. They did update some of the landmarks for N7 that will be posted. Just picking things that are more visible. So line is staying the same, but instead of using things that you can't actually see from the flat, we're picking things
Talking
that.
about like town lines.
Yes, I believe town lines are more well defined. As well as like from where Farm Creek turns
Oh.
into.
Yes, the difference N 7.4.
Yes, and Farm Creek is gonna get its own number, and 7.12, I think.
Okay.
Everything is gonna not change, so the definition is the same, the area is the same, everything is the same, they're just, so if you look at it and there's an issue, you know, up the creek, they can just close that area versus like a greater space.
Okay,
So nothing's changing, they're just changing the decimal point number. And then they've updated a lot of stuff on the Essex side. So it doesn't concern us, but they are kind of just tidying up those definitions and adding GPS coordinates so that, you know, if you were standing at a place and you're like, oh, it's the corner of the red house that you can see over there, you can
Right.
also pair that with a GPS coordinate to make sure that you are on the right side
in the
of
right
that
area.
corner of the red house. So just
Right.
clarifying, making
Right.
things a little bit more clear. So not really changing anything, just making it a little bit more concrete of a definition.
And this has to do with the FDA?
Yeah, it's been something that they have been working towards anyways, because a lot of our definitions up here are old.
Yeah.
Right,
And
and
so
unclear,
and unclear and
yeah.
landmarks have changed, so
and they need that for the tagging and the.
yeah, and it
Potential
just looks, if you're
issues.
proactive about that stuff,
Mhm.
it looks better too.
Mhm.
So making sure that we just have things that are very clear and easy to point to and be like, if I looked at a GPS, we can see that you're not here and now. Everyone has one.
Yes.
So,
I do have a question, or more like a statement, kind of a question, is, you know, over the years, the boundary between Ipswich, Essex, Gloucester, those 3 points
mhm,
has really been well defined.
I think
There's
there's,
some old pipes that get filled in, and then you can see them, and then you can't. There's a rock that's supposed to be in the middle of the spit, and
and the
you know,
same, that landscape has changed
so, yeah.
dramatically. I think they have GPS coordinates for
They have
those boundaries.
GPS on it now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Do you know if they put any markers out there, any additional markers?
That I don't know, because the markers are up to us, they create the
Okay.
definition, so. Oh, another thing, speaking of board boundaries, in the Annisquam, for the Cross Creek and Jones River areas, there are now yellow buoys.
Okay,
Visible from like the main channel of the Annisquam that say, seasonal shellfish closure boundary. Instead of the wooden posts, because those keep floating away, so these are a little bit more, they're the same ones
More
from the
permanent.
netting
Yeah,
project that are
these are more
still there.
okay,
So, that should make it a little bit easier for recreational people to like literally trip over if they're gonna go walk back into Cross Creek. Should be a little bit more noticeable and more permanent, so at least
Okay.
now we can say like the yellow buoys are the boundary line. Of course, I'm not worried about commercial guys, but rec people do wander back there quite often.
just getting back to the Essex River area and 7.
Mhm.
Does we have the numbers? Do you know what those GPS coordinates are? So that way, you know, the diggers that are out there,
Off the top of my
somehow
head, no, but
they know where you know, if they're out there with a handheld unit, they can say, okay, yeah, this is where I'm at.
yeah, so they just sent me those numbers.
Okay.
I'm gonna update them in the packet, so I'll have IT upload that onto the website. And then for N 7.12, which will be Farm Creek, because the GPS coordinates will be in there and I'll have to redo the postings. The postings will have the new definitions, which will have the GPS coordinates
Okay.
included.
Okay,
And so I'll change because I'm slowly gonna be changing all the
Right.
signs over, so that
the ones on land.
the ones on land, so
Yeah,
that everything
okay.
matches the packet and is more clear.
Okay.
We'll have the new points,
Gotcha.
so at least if anyone chooses to read the signs, they'll be on there, but I always tell people to like just screenshot stuff on your phone and then you have
Right,
it with you. I do that a lot with recreational people, because they aren't out as much as the commercial guys, they don't have it like committed to memory, but
right,
luckily the lines haven't shifted at all, so if people know where the line is, they know where the line is. But it is gonna be available
Good,
on
good,
the
excellent.
packet, so. It'll be posted,
that way, like, there won't be any disputing about where the line is.
Mhm.
Clammers kind of have a clash when it comes to town line.
Yeah.
And where it is, because historically markers have
moved,
moved or
Yes,
disappeared.
yes.
Whether it by natural causes or human intervention that you have. I've been
Yeah.
out there to see the disputes, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's good to know that those things are.
Yeah,
being
and
updated.
once we get more help, maybe I can meet with the Essex and Ipswich people out there and we can set a marker that's more permanent.
Yes, excellent.
If that's possible. So,
Yes.
so we're getting there, getting organized.
Excellent, excellent. All right, so we finished on agenda item number 2. All right, so the third agenda item, shellfish permits. So I have a little bit of something I want to tell the board, to disclose to the board. I put this on there because I have a personal issue here. So I have to recuse myself from any type of vote that has for this issue because I didn't renew my permit, not purposefully. I have a lot going on. I just actually moved, my family moved across town. And I spent the month of June purging, cleaning, and I didn't renew my permit. I went down to town hall on July 1st. I remembered Saturday morning, this is Fiesta week, my son was rowing. I had to take my father-in-law, who was going through some medical issues right now, he's got prostate cancer. I had to help him, and I forgot to renew my permit on Friday. The end of the month was Sunday, so Saturday, Sunday, I didn't go to town hall. I realized this Saturday morning, I'm like, oh, I can go claim it this morning. So I went to town hall on July 1st, and the city clerk said, you passed the deadline, can't issue your license because it's a city ordinance.
For the commercial.
For the commercial permit, yeah, so the city, I believe, I don't know if it was the city clerk or the assistant clerk, but she said to contact Rebecca, Shellfish Constable. And I contacted Rebecca, and at that point, there really wasn't much Rebecca can do because she doesn't issue me a license, the city does. I then contacted the mayor's office to find out if there was a way that I could proceed to try to get my license. I had gotten back from the mayor's admin, and she said she spoke to the legal counsel, Jill Cahill. And there's some reciprocity bylaws on the books, but that doesn't, I don't apply for that because I don't own property in other towns. I've had a commercial license since 1995. I've been digging for a long time, and this is the first time I ever forgot to renew my license. And I know I made a mistake and forgot to. I had a lot of stuff going on. And what I was hoping to do is get my license back so I can go digging. And you know, you're looking at our bylaws. I mean, it's pretty evident on the bylaw by June 30th as your deadline. There's no grace period or anything. I know some things give you, if there's a deadline ends on a Saturday or Sunday, they give you a day or two grace period. There's nothing like that in our bylaws. There's no potential for, if you apply for it for the month of July, there's a late fee instated, something like that. There's just no other way to get a license other than go to City Hall between June 1st and June 30th.
I was just going to ask when it opened.
June 1st.
Okay.
Yeah, so June 1st to June 30th. I mean, it's not technically 30 days because there's weekends there,
Yeah.
holiday, and Memorial
Yeah,
Day.
this weekend's on holidays.
Yeah,
You've
so-
got Juneteenth.
So,
Yeah.
And Juneteenth, so yeah, Memorial Day weekend was that weekend.
Yeah.
Memorial Days, when is it, in May,
May,
right?
last
Yeah, May. So it wasn't in June. But no, I forgot to, and I had just had a lot going on, so,
Well, yeah,
well,
I wouldn't have had as much sympathy if they opened up like May 1st or
Right,
April 1st, but
right.
June 1st, I understand.
so what I'm kind of looking for from the board is a way to issue a license at this point to me, or to other people.
You're
if
not
they-
the only one who
If
forgot.
they do forget, so Rebecca did tell me that there's another gentleman that had
Yeah.
the same circumstance.
Which I
so-
believe he was told something different from you. He was told to contact me about. Like, I think he said that they said if I said it was okay, they could get a license, so it seems like there's still some confusion too. And I did reach out to the clerk's office saying that you got a hard no, someone else got a kinda sorta, maybe. And I was like, okay, which one? I don't do permits.
Yeah.
Is there wiggle room? Is there not wiggle room?
Yeah.
And I'm still waiting to hear back.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
were gonna check in, cause I don't do the permitting, so I don't really know. I don't really know.
City Hall isn't going to be back. I'm still waiting for a response. It was supposed to come the next day, 3 weeks ago.
Yeah,
So, I have some sympathy for you on that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I honestly think because so many people wait until June 30th, that if that occurs on a weekend.
Yeah.
That it should be extended to the corresponding number of days,
mhm,
later.
yeah. Yeah, and I think when we spoke to even having, you have the first week of July, but there's a late fee or whatever, something that allows a little bit of a grace period.
It can't be done remotely, can it, online?
No, cause you have to give like physical proof of
So, yeah,
residency, right?
if you're out of
But
town,
that
if you're
could be emailed.
away. Say last 2 weeks you're going to visit your kids in California.
Yeah, June's hard because it's like graduations
Right.
and, kids getting out of
It's
school.
a lot.
It's
My daughter
a lot,
graduated
yeah,
too, and
Right,
There's a lot going on.
yeah,
One
so there's no way.
I
that these-
personally, the fiscal year
The way-
ending
The way the law
in
is
my busy
now,
season is tough too.
Does it say, okay, first of all, I think you're on the right track. I think it should be able to be done remotely. And I think,
Yes, I agree.
and I would extend it to midnight of June 30th, which I don't know when you really realized you didn't have it.
29th, Saturday morning,
Okay, all
When I
right.
was- when I was thinking of going clamming.
Yeah.
And then I go, oh, shoot,
Yeah,
I didn't go yesterday to town hall.
yeah. And it's only open until noon on Fridays.
so the rules are that if you haven't done it by June 30th, you can't get a license for that
The
year.
last
Right.
business day
Right.
of
For
June.
that whole year,
Yeah,
there's
the
no
la-
ifs, ands, or
That's
buts.
the
Right.
window.
Wow.
But there
Wow,
should
there's-
be. Or
yeah,
even
you
like
said a hardship.
a hardship
Mhm.
Yeah,
or,
there's nothing about a hardship.
yeah,
On there.
or
Like on
even
late fee or
a
something.
late fee, yeah,
And that-
Or
that's-
by special waiver of shellfish agent with the commission.
I mean,
For God's sakes, you're chairman of the commission. Come on.
I'm not, and I think about this and, when I lived in Ipswich, I was on the board there and we had. Something in the bylaws called a hardship license.
Mhm.
And that would apply to someone who lost their job and couldn't meet the window, the deadline. And they're looking to go clamming.
Yeah.
As a backup. We don't have anything on the bylaws about that at all. So
I don't know if you'd qualify for hardship, though.
I didn't, I kind of lost my job clamming, but that's kind of, you know what I mean?
But.
No, I
Only because you
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
have
I'm
the
not,
license.
I wouldn't say, and I said that to Rebecca too, I wouldn't say I'm a hardship because
Yeah.
I didn't use my full-time job.
but there should
but-
be, like you were saying, a way. If people could apply. Late and then review, like if it's some. Long time,
Get the application in, let them tell you it's not complete, but let them finish it.
right, or
A review
or
board.
have us review
review
and
board.
just say like. Really,
Yeah,
like,
give us your
spend the month of June like
circumstances.
partying and forget it, or
Right, give us your
or
circumstances.
did you have surgery and you didn't know if you were gonna be able to physically clam until
That's
October,
right,
like
you've had a hip
something,
replacement.
Yeah.
and-
The only thing I see the problem with that is
people getting
somebody,
lax.
yeah,
Yeah.
people that we don't approve for a waiver are going to
Exactly.
sue us and deal
Yes.
with,
Oh,
all
yeah.
of that stuff.
Yeah.
But
I I could see if.
Or like a hardship, like an extension for a current license holder
Yeah,
or something.
Yeah,
If you're new,
something like
get it
that.
together, get it in.
Yeah,
If you're someone who's continuing to harvest
I think that's
shellfish.
fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what can we do? I know you can't vote, but what do you see the most constructive way of approaching this? Have us vote on creating a waiver for you this year and then deal with this matter later?
I think that would be probably the quickest way to go through it.
And we
And-
would have to make it available for other
The,
license
the other,
holders,
uh,
yeah.
Maybe
But-
somehow where we, if we would. Cause I think you'd have to go through city council to not just change.
Cause it
but to
is about
amend
an
the
ordinance, yeah.
Yeah. we
Saying
would
that
have
if
to-
the
So-
last day
Yeah.
of the month falls on a weekend, you have 1 or 2 days grace period to renew your license.
Yeah,
I think that would kind of keep that window still very
Yeah.
small
I think so too.
and allow potential mishaps like this to,
Mhm.
to be corrected fairly
And
quickly.
I would like to add in there to provide a remote way of applying,
Yeah,
I think that's a good idea.
because you can show proof of residency,
I mean, I
right?
get-
You scan it and you send it to them.
Yeah,
they do it for beach stickers.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say they do it for
Yeah.
beach stickers, they do it for
Yeah.
dog.
Yeah.
They
I
do, there are people that
I don't live in
review them
Gloucester,
and
but I can
there's
get
an
my
awful
dog
lot of people that try to
registered
get away
online.
with, an
Yeah.
expired license or
Yeah.
something,
I
but
think for the
an
most-
active commercial digger license would show that you're currently a resident.
right,
Yeah,
because I have previous
yeah,
licenses, so
Yeah.
it's not like I'm a first time.
I mean, or like an option for mailing it. If you can't physically get, cause some of the clearers aren't gonna scan stuff and do it online.
Yeah,
But like a
yeah.
way to mail,
Yeah, they
Mail
count
something
absentee
in,
ballots
yeah.
as long as it's postmarked on that day.
yeah, so there
And
should
they
be.
certainly will take your taxes.
Yeah, I would think that the city would want like $400.
You would think.
You know,
I would think so,
Could the deadline be extended? Change the deadline?
that would be an ordinance change.
yeah, we'd have to amend the ordinance.
And the problem
I
is,
think
maybe
that
it
would,
should
that would
still,
have to go through.
but
city
you
council.
still have, for example, if you took it up to July 7th,
You
if
still have
that
the week of the
occurs on a
4th of
Friday
July,
and you're in that position,
and you have,
extending into
yeah,
July, you have
and
the
this
same
week,
issue.
I mean, this year, the 4th is on a Thursday, and then we got the Friday off, so you still lose
Yeah.
potentially 2 days
Yeah, I
that
think,
week. So if
um,
we extend it, like you're saying, if the 30th falls on the weekend, extend a day or two the next week, and then maybe have like a 2-week grace period where there's a late fee.
Yeah.
Or something.
yeah, that makes sense to me. I think there should be a late fee attached because that will deter
People from
Some
just waiting,
people, yeah.
yeah,
from waiting.
From not forgetting to do it.
Yeah.
Not forgetting to do it.
Yeah.
We all have those ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
mean,
didn't
if
move
I
on,
had,
I
if
didn't
I
move
had
out of the
to
town. I stayed in Gloucester.
If
just
I
moved a
had to
couple
do
streets over.
anything like that in like May, I think my brain would have just shut off.
Yeah.
I would have just moved, I don't know, so I get it. But yeah, I think there should be either a late period or, online.
How do we go about?
the online won't happen quickly,
No,
No,
but we have a
No.
year.
right? Next year. Yep.
So there's potential.
Yeah,
So shall we propose that to, who would be in charge of the IT people to create an online application?
But I think
Link.
that would probably be the
City
clerks, right?
yeah.
and wouldn't we have to pass that through city council first?
Probably.
yeah.
I would think that, because that's a whole change in
Mhm.
how you apply.
Right,
Why don't we deal with making an
Right.
exception for,
The
or
two of them.
creating a waiver?
Yeah, cause
You
it's
and the
not,
other-
we know who the other person.
And hopefully I can get some
Were
feedback
his-
as well.
were his circumstances such that,
It was very similar,
okay,
yeah,
all right.
waking up on the first, going to city hall on the first.
Don't we have to include his name in the motion? Or are there others?
I have not heard from others. Do we say this year, if there's people who missed the deadline,
They
they
should come
can
before us.
contact
They
the
should come
advisory
before us for a
council?
waiver.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That way,
I don't know. was this other person a continuing clamor? Can we do it just for continuing clamors?
That's what I would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely,
Absolutely,
Yeah.
because
absolutely, yes.
there's no,
There's no
Yeah,
letting,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
cause you can get your transaction card at any time from the state, correct?
Okay, so right now we're doing it
Or if
For-
any,
existing,
continuing
existing,
clamors.
yep.
Yeah.
They have to come before us to state their case,
I think that's fair.
okay, and pay a fee. No,
That-
that has to be
that-
established by city
yeah.
council.
I can't do any of
Okay.
that.
No. All right,
During the next meeting, we can just set it up or now, in this case,
let's
come before us.
Do we have to ask
Well,
somebody?
Lisa,
we can make a motion that we advise, we're an advisory commission,
Okay.
we can't grant this.
Yes,
Okay.
that's where I just wanted
yeah.
to make sure, because I don't know.
We
Thank
recommend
goodness
that.
you know, because I am still new to do this,
Yeah.
navigating how
Yeah.
the city works, so.
Yeah, me
No,
too.
I think we recommend that.
Okay.
So that
Okay,
should go in the notes for sure.
okay, I make a motion to recommend that in the case of Herman Mirowski.
And
And
any continuing,
any other continuing clamor, that their license be granted after the deadline because of compelling reasons, that they missed the original deadline.
And I'll second that.
Okay.
And should we vote on it?
Yes. All in favor? And Tony recuses.
yes, I choose this.
Good. You're welcome.
okay, so we made a recommendation,
Yes.
okay. Who do
And I
we,
don't know who that goes to.
I was gonna say,
I
who
would
do we
say,
tell?
Probably, who's chairman of the city council, Val? No. Is it still Val? I think Val Gilman was. I don't know whether, I don't think she is now. Yeah, I think that's probably who would, I would send it to that person. I would send it to that person. I'd CC it to the mayor's office. Cody
Okay.
The
basis.
minutes or this motion?
The motion,
The motion.
probably,
Yeah,
and just
Okay.
say
that we have,
that the
this
advisory
is
board,
our recommendation.
okay.
Is the recording, will that be up tomorrow? Or is
I
that-
believe they post it pretty quick,
Okay.
it might
They
take a
do.
day or two,
Okay,
yeah,
okay,
okay.
great, thank you.
And
Yeah, so
then-
I'll just kind of what you said.
Yeah.
Kind of draft that in the email and say that the advisory board,
Yeah, you can change the words around. It was a little awkward
That's
at the
okay.
end there.
it's okay, when you have to make it up on the fly, that's fine,
Um,
and then I'll,
And then from this point on, we can work on next year's process of doing it online
Yes.
and maybe extending it the weekend if it falls on a Saturday.
The
Yeah.
last day of the month falls on
Right.
a weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so would we draft language on that and then bring
Yes.
it to a meeting to discuss and then
Yeah.
eventually bring it to city
Yeah,
council?
so that's gonna take a little more deliberation, I think, than we're prepared to do tonight, because we need to think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, I agree,
Yes, I do think having the ability to renew your permit online
I think that's,
Oh,
will help.
absolutely.
yeah,
It will help some,
I
quite
agree.
a bit.
Cause it's, I mean, I'm a city employee and I don't work a traditional
Yeah.
week and trying to figure out when other people are doing things. I'm like, wait, when? When are they doing that? I don't have real hours.
Right.
What's
right.
happening?
Right.
Not everyone works at
I'm glad we
Lotad.
don't have to go to the DMV to renew our registration and license, you
Yeah,
know,
you
you
should
just
be
go
able-
online to do that.
Yeah, especially if you're continuing, it should be.
Yeah.
You know, when you check in for a doctor's appointment, did any of this change?
So if, right, how would you take their word for their residents? Cause it, oh, here's my old license, I just wanna renew it. Maybe they
If you're
move.
mailing permits out,
If
Yeah,
I don't know if they'll
They-
do that,
they look
but
you up on the system.
they
Look,
can,
you're-
that's right.
And if you show like a current real estate tax or a current rental
Mhm.
payment, as long as it's current, you can't take one from 3 years ago.
yeah,
Probably not utility though, I mean, I'm thinking of the parking permits and how that's approved, and there's some tricky ways around it.
The beach.
The beach permit,
stickers.
yeah, the beach
Well, that
stickers.
could be a good
They
model
could
for us to go.
follow
from.
that
Yeah,
model, yeah, yep, because they're very strict.
Yeah.
Of which they have to be, because there's
Yeah.
a lot of people that wanna get those.
yeah,
Okay.
Excellent.
And if anybody is renewing things and you find a good form that you like, screenshot it.
Take note of that.
Take notes.
All right, so moving on to the next item on the agenda is number 4, the netting project. I put this on the agenda. I thought this would be good to keep as a reoccurring item. So that way we can discuss it. I don't see any other clamors here. 'Cause I was hoping we could get some more input from other clamors. I have talked to a few clamors out there, and there's been some discussion amongst them, particularly one person, Mike Jacobs, who's interested in putting nets in an N7 location called John's Cove, which historically was a productive area. It's not on the Essex Gloucester line, it's John's
Set
Cove.
back a little bit.
Yeah, set back in from the channel of the Essex River. It's got a nice bank when you first get into it, nice mud bank. And then the cove goes in, it's kind of muddy inside there. It's wide enough to put netting down. And I think it would be, potential good spot in N7. But it's not near the Essex side, so we're not really worried about anybody on the other side of the town messing with it. But again, when we do these types of projects, we do have to get lots of permits to do that.
Me too.
And we have to look into who owns the land. That's one of the big things is, if it's public, if it's, town land, then we just get a city permit from the DMF and we're good to go. And probably approval from the Conservation Commission,
usually.
Concom, and I don't think, maybe Waterways Commission too as well, to make sure there's no
Yeah, just to make
on
sure
their-
there's no
their
hazard.
hazards.
Yeah,
hazards.
because people, unfortunately, small boats and jet skis and stuff do
Yeah,
go places they shouldn't probably too
Yeah.
fast. But yeah. It would be the same as like any like dock permit, just making sure everybody knows where it is and is okay with it.
Have there been, in the areas where we've done netting projects before, have there been any notable successes that we could repeat in that area?
yes. We did have netting for a while in a spot called High Bar. It's right at the mouth of Jones Creek,
Okay.
Oh, the little,
a little sand,
one little-
yeah, it's a
yeah,
cove
yeah.
and it's a sandbar that goes across the Jones Creek. And then there's a cove that goes inside. Nets were left there for many years. They weren't taken up. And they were very, very productive. Those nets worked very well there. And we had a good amount of digging in there. Guys were going in there for, it was only opened. It was closed for a while because the nets were there. And I had moved to Gloucester. This is kind of my personal experience with it. When I moved to Gloucester, I noticed netting in this area, and I went to Dave Sargent, who was the constable at the time, and I asked him what's going on there. There's a lot of clams under the nets because you could see the clams are popping out. And he said that there was a project that was done there. Many clammers helped to put the nets down. But there were some disagreements about certain things that I don't know the details, so I can really speak on the detail. But the nets were left there. Nobody bothered to take them out. And so I spoke to, I talked to Dave. I said, hey, if we get a crew of guys to go in there and remove the nets,
We
will
did.
you open it? Let us dig. Sure. So we did that. And just about every commercial clamor that has been digging for a while went in there. It was only open on Saturdays. It's still only open on Saturdays now, that area. And we were able to get our limit very quickly in a couple hours.
And did that
Most of
dig it
the
out?
But we had about 4 or 5 tides in there before it got petered out. But there was
That's 4 or 5 tides.
12, 15, maybe 20 diggers in there.
Okay.
It worked very well. The only problem with that area now is it's restricted. It's not, no, I'm sorry, not restricted. It's conditionally,
Seasonally.
yeah,
Seasonally closed.
seasonally closed.
Okay,
So you can only dig it in those winter months.
okay, yeah, but is it worth a netting project there if they've been successful for winter digging?
I have seen some guys continuing to dig there during the winter months.
Okay,
So I think may have kind of reclaimed its productivity again.
Okay.
But that I can't really speak of, other than I've seen diggers in there. I have thought about some areas based on the area that we had tried, is it Jim Durney's? That's the Jim Durney's right off of Rust Island. I think an area that has a little bit more water flow rather than kind of like a cove where the water just comes in and drains out. And one area that I think that has potential is the Mill River. That area, according to some of the older clammers, was pretty productive in the past. And it hasn't taken clams in many years, 10, 15, 20 years maybe. But I've been in Gloucester for 13 years and I haven't dug up inside there at all. The only place there's clams is up by
In the
the
gravel.
road where
Captain
Captain
Hooks,
Hooks used to
boy,
be.
there's,
Yep.
there are
They call
four
that the
guys that
mills,
have
the
been
diggers
there
call that the
every
mills.
Yeah,
time
the
for the last
same.
2 weeks.
Mhm. There was a
It's tough
wreck digger there
digging.
yesterday,
It's
just
rocky,
sitting on her bucket digging.
but there's clams there.
I saw her,
And
yeah.
and a lot
I
of
was wondering what
diggers,
she was doing.
a lot of diggers believe, now I haven't walked through Mill Pond, but a lot of diggers believe that that still has a lot of clams in it. Because that may be helping to seed some of that area.
I'll bet that
Yeah, I
is.
bet that's true.
So also in the
That mud's horrendous though.
Yes.
fall, oh
It
yeah.
looks,
It's
it looks
awful.
thick, I've never walked in there.
Yeah,
But
There's a lot of fish that come out of there too,
Yeah.
little fry fish, it's a beautiful.
It could be productive area, but I think right now it's prohibited, so you can't dig there.
Okay.
yeah, I think that's probably gonna stay that way.
Yeah,
Cause the water
Um,
quality is
Yeah,
not
that's
So-
good.
55-gallon drums that they hauled out of there 10 years ago, 12 years ago, or.
so there's a couple things to
There's a
think
pump
about.
house right
when-
on, in the housing development, like right borderline in the marsh.
Yeah,
There's a couple things to think about when you decide location. Again, Mill Pond, it's a pond, it fills and drains, it doesn't flow. It does flow kind of near the road area. There's an area, if you go like halfway between Captain Hooks and the mouth of the Mill River. There's a big portion of marsh that's kind of on the left side. It's pretty firm in there. A lot of diggers walk through there and they don't really find much, some razor clams. I'd like to do a site visit and look at that site and see if there's potential there. Cause it's away from the channel. There are moorings in the Mill River, but not around that location. They're upland landowners, but for the most part, we've had pretty good interaction with the upland landowners in the previous site. And it's got great flow. And I think that could be potential for a site. Would not put all the nets there, but put 12, 15 nets, 10, and see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, and if it takes, we put some more nets in that location again. Because what I've also seen with my experience with the netting is that if you have good success in one spot, that's gonna be your adult population to spawn and push more clams out. And because they're kind of concentrated in that location, the success of them spawning and reproducing is higher. And there's other locations, but I think if we look at places that no one's digging right now and haven't been digging for a couple of years.
I
There's a
won't
little,
wanna dig for.
yeah, I
couple
mean,
of
there's
years.
a little bit of science that we can put to it, maybe do some soil analysis. We could get some pH, we talked about this in the past. Check the soil, is it soupy muck? Does it need to be scraped off? We can scrape some of that soupy muck off and put the nets down. However, we want an area where the nets can float. Jim Durney's, the nets didn't really float. They kind of got stuck in that muck.
They
and-
floated.
They did float?
Mhm.
Oh, all right, so again,
There was
some flow.
squid back in there.
Really?
Yeah, it was really cool, actually. It
and I
became like
haven't-
a whole little habitat. I'd go down at high tide just
Oh.
to see if they were floating. I'm like, okay, everybody's living in here.
I haven't been in there since we pulled the nets either, so.
I haven't either. I'm really hoping that I can hire someone and then be like, okay, we're going in.
And take a
let's
look in
go."
there. and see
Yeah,
if we're
in the
seeing-
fall, yeah.
Cause when we pulled the nets, we didn't really see much, it's a little bit, but nothing to
But
really
it's
be
been what,
excited
2
about.
years now, so
Yeah.
if there's things, they should be more apparent for sure,
So
so.
that could be something we could try to do is take a look at that spot.
Mhm.
Maybe do a site, test out some other areas.
When you say we should, do we have marine biologists or shellfish biologists that have background and a little more knowledge? I mean, you may well, I don't know what your background is in regards,
Actually, I have a degree in marine biology.
there you go.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And
that's
I-
perfect, yeah.
And I did have a shellfish aquaculture site in Ipswich for 10 years.
Right, right, I
So I,
did, yeah.
so I have some
So that's
experience with the
good, yeah.
netting and seeing. But Gloucester, the way the water flows, it's a river, it's a little different. We have these creeks that kind of have a dead end,
yeah.
Mhm.
you know, but historically,
And our
they've been very
sediment.
productive.
Yeah, our sediment changes pretty drastically
Yeah.
too throughout the whole river, so a spot that. On paper looks really good, when you go walk in there, you're like, oh,
And
horrendous, like,
Clams prefer what? Mud, sandy mud?
I don't think they're as picky. As nets are.
I think, from what I've seen. On
It seems like
flats,
middle, not too hard,
Yeah.
not too soft, cause we have some areas that are incredibly soupy.
Mhm.
Where it seems like, at least just from my perspective, once you get a little bit of weight to you, you're not really gonna be able to. They're not really gonna be able to sit where they wanna sit. And then the areas that are too, I mean, Wingersheek's pretty firm, and there's plenty of clams there.
Also, two areas that are getting turned over, that they're getting dug. Those are the areas that seem to be taking seed again. Next time we get seed, places that have been traditionally dug and harvested from in the last 10 years, we'll get seed again. That area is being turned over. Areas that have been left fallow and there's muck growing on it. I think that's one of the problems. We can't get seed on there.
Will there be a rebellion if you take one of the good clamming spots and cover it up?
From what I hear about the Mill River is if we do it in a spot where no one's digging right now. I don't think it's, Jim Durney's.
No one
wasn't-
really
no,
dug, yeah.
From the feedback I got from most clammers was like, why did you go there? That wasn't a great spot. If you go over a little bit of the bank into where the Straits, where there's a channel that goes through from the Annisquam Channel over into Jones Creek. That's got a nice tidal flow and there's very little scum muck on there.
But
Boats
it's a
go through
boat,
there.
yeah, it's a boat.
Boats,
So-
and if a boat prop hits a net, then that's gonna be tore open. In a couple days, the crabs will come in and eat whatever's there.
And the boat has a lot of damage and,
Yeah,
yeah,
potentially. Potentially, so we wanna have the nets in an area that. We don't have any competition from commercial clammers, we don't wanna take away areas that they're actively digging. We don't want to obstruct navigational
We can't.
channels.
but we can't.
We can't.
We can't.
Well, yeah. And we don't really wanna go in an area that has absolutely no potential at all. You know, so there's site selection, because if we're gonna go through the effort of getting volunteers and trying to convince the clammers that, yes, this is something we want everyone to get involved in, we have to get a good site to do it on. I think if we find that, we could go back into the high flat, the mouth of the Jones Creek area. I saw the success that was there. That could be another spot where, because we had the permitting there before. So that's a spot where we know we could get the permitting. We know we had success. That could help.
How many years does it take roughly from when you set the nets and the seeds start settling in that they can be harvested?
When I was,
3 to 5-ish.
well, when I was putting nets down, there seemed to be a period where you want to get them in before any of the spawning happens, because the nets want to settle in.
Right,
Usually that's April, May, springtime. What I saw, the clam seed coming in, and this is in the Ipswich Bay area, was September. We would see the seed, we could actually visibly see it. When it was in the water column, clams, August probably, when they're spawning, the water temperature has to be a certain temperature. We want a little bit warmer.
Okay, yeah.
Cause the right food, their algae has to be in the water for the larval clams that are now swimming freely in the water to eat and survive. Once they start growing a shell, they become heavy. That's when they start falling to the bottom. And they'll tumble around on the flats till they find that spot. And what the net does is the net slows the current down and kind of pulls them into the netting areas. When I had a lease in Ipswich, we had a lot of seed under the nets, and right outside the net, nothing. So the nets will work.
Mhm.
Again, it's site selection, site location that will help. And getting the clammers on board, I think, would be here at these meetings, trying to get them to come in and let's talk about it, let's discuss it. And let's get some ideas of where to go. I've heard people tell me, clammers, oh, we think this area, come to the meeting, let's talk about it. Come to the front of the board, so that way we know people are serious and want to get involved.
Do most of the planners use email at this point and stuff? Or any of them? I'll even qualify it.
I think most of them do at this
Okay.
point.
Because if you sent an agenda out with that item circled on it.
Yeah, I mean, that wouldn't be a bad idea to have an agenda go to the claimers. I don't think that they're seeing it.
I don't think they are either. I'm sure they're not.
A
This
lot
is
of the
the-
feedback I get too is like, oh, well, like nothing happened, so we don't go.
Yeah.
But if no one
But if you get-
comes, then it's kind of like,
Unless
no
they hear
offense,
there's a-
Yeah.
but like,
Why are we here?
I mean, a commercial claimer is here, but
Yep.
to, manage a whole fishery based off of one guy's recommendations is at least someone's coming and making recommendations, but
They don't
Yeah.
need to put an email on their application, do they?
no,
Right,
they do not.
They don't have to, but
But is there a
they
place
can.
to?
They can,
there,
yeah,
yeah,
they can.
is that, yeah.
I'm pretty
yeah.
sure on the city. I know the state permit you do, cause I get state notifications from the DMF about shellfish, cause I email.
Mhm.
I would have to check, I have a stack of them on my desk,
But I
but
think,
that's not part of my spreadsheet that I use for patrol, so
Right.
I can't even tell you.
I mean, this.
Phone-
this is-
I will tell you though. The information we ask for. Doesn't always get written down, it is the fair essentials for many claimers, it is
Right.
just. What the city needs to know that they live in town. And a lot of the other gaps I usually fill. A
Right.
spreadsheet parked behind whoever
Yeah,
on the flats. So, it's kind of, I would say. Maybe 50-50 on anything other than a physical address,
Who do they actually apply to? City clerk or
Yeah.
you?
city clerk, yeah.
Um,
And then I get the permits from them.
Yeah. maybe they could be asked, if somebody doesn't fill in phone number or email to say, you may want to fill this in because Tony is sending out agendas.
Yeah,
And there might be something you're interested
Or
in.
that could go on the packet.
I was gonna say for
Yeah, or
future,
the
if we're
form.
talking about applying online
Mhm.
for a license, that would have to go
That
into
would
that.
have to, yeah.
Yeah, 'cause I
that
know
would
for-
test their license.
for day permits and people who get their year round, you can do your year round permit online.
Correct.
I don't think so.
I think for
may
out
well.
of town you can,
Oh, okay,
if a Massachusetts resident who's not a Gloucester resident
can do it
can
online.
do it online.
Hmm.
I think,
I don't know.
cause I've seen. On a phone, it looks the exact same as a day permit cause a lot of people for day permits, I always tell them like screenshot it. So you have a picture of it, because they do it online, and then they're out at Winter Sheep with no cell service. And they're like, well, we have it, I'm like, your
Yeah,
phone's not gonna
but-
work here though.
It's supposed to
My
be
phone's not
every-
gonna work here though.
Right.
And I've seen some that do have the $200 amount, so I don't know if it's just they get them sent electronically or if they have to.
$200 amount?
For non-Gloucester
Oh,
resident
that's what they pay,
recreational,
yeah, okay, yeah.
Um,
okay. Yep.
And there, to get your online permit, you create like a little. Like profile, so if you log back into your account, you can buy another day permit, and it saves all your
Oh,
information, so I'm
yeah.
wondering if.
200 is for the annual. annual
For an
Right,
annual
right,
permit,
right,
if you
yeah.
could do
I
something
was-
similar and like set up like a.
And on that, I know you said, like, the netting pride, I'm sorry, I may be changing the subject.
No, it's
here.
okay, I think
lost
we're,
track
I
of
think
things for a
we are
minute.
sort of,
You wanted to have the netting project a continuing discussion, but if you do that and we end up being able to send out agendas to the clammers, they're gonna say, well, that happens every meeting, I'll go next time.
Yeah.
You know, so if we have more specific locations to be discussed or
Yes,
something.
potential
Yeah,
sites to
that-
be
yeah,
discussed,
yeah,
and
something
we
like
can throw a
that.
couple down on
Throw
there.
them, yeah,
yeah.
Is
throw
that-
some carrots in there.
When
And I know for me, I'll be able to put more thought into locations and actually look on our software on where there is city property and stuff in the
Yeah.
fall. Right now, I really don't have much
Better
time.
yet, put some contentious locations,
Yeah, I
so
mean-
that you do get the clamors in here.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
When I've talked to many of the commercial clammers who, been doing it for a number of years, have come to the meetings. They don't come to the meetings because in the past, nothing's happened, nothing has really come about them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what I'm trying to do is say, hey, this
Get
board,
this
we're
done.
motivated, we wanna get things done.
we did up the limit.
Yeah, you
recently,
know,
yeah.
so come to the meetings.
And I think circling stuff, like, they don't care about updates on enforcement and management, but
Yeah.
with, we do, but.
They wanna know
But
where
if
the
you
netting
circle
project is.
something or
Right.
asterisk it or something that you as a clamor would be interested in,
Right.
I think you may get more attention.
Right.
And attendance perhaps, I don't know.
I mean, and there's about a handful of guys that I know that I could tell and try to convince them to come back to the meetings.
Yeah, I
Because
know
we
I
wanna
told a
discuss
couple of
these
clammers
things.
like, hey, you're
Yeah.
frustrated, like, we're having a meeting on Tuesday, 5:30.
If you don't
So-
come, don't complain.
Yeah,
Right.
well,
You don't wanna hear it.
I mean,
telling a fisherman not to complain.
Yeah, right. It's like a New Englander to complain
That's
about the
like-
weather, right?
I was gonna
We
say,
we have
yeah.
the right to.
Exactly. All right.
Yeah, so again, we can discuss it in continuance and
Yep.
hopefully we can get more clammers to show up
Okay.
and have more input on it.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to have something like in the paper where hey, Shellfish Advisory Commission wants to discuss netting projects. Please come to our next meeting, like an actual advertisement.
Have you thought about a survey? I hate surveys, but would they be interested in a survey on places? These are the places we've discussed.
Hey, you want to hand out surveys to everybody in the land?
I can leave them on windshield.
Yeah,
The problem is there's only a couple of guys.
yeah.
Send them out
When the
by
Jones
email.
opens,
Hey, by
December,
email would be great.
Yeah,
December
send them out by
1st.
email.
Yeah, you'll see them down there December first.
Yeah,
I can,
Survey Monkey is free and easy.
Yeah.
I'll be able to read all the crude comments, it'll be great.
Yeah. Be interesting.
All right.
All right, any more discussion on that agenda item?
So,
I don't think so.
Moving on, the last agenda item, items not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours of this meeting. I did hand out something that I got online from Division of Marine Fisheries. It's just a discussion about how they view climate change, the changing conditions of our ocean, our coastline has now pushed them to invest more in testing machines, equipment, more scientific testing. And they now have, and it says there in Gloucester particularly is one of the locations where they've invested into testing equipment. So it's good to see that the DMF is trying to keep up with some of these things. And so I know for many years that the testing for PSP, red tide, paralytic shellfish poisoning, had been done with mice.
Yeah, I did it.
So,
That's what
yeah,
I did in
so,
the senior project in high school.
yeah, so I mean, it's
Made.
it's become a point where a lot of clammers have, kind of mulled around, like, is this accurate, more accurate machines cost more money. DMF has the funding and they now are hopefully in the early stages of implementing these tests with the new scientific equipment.
My understanding was that for the PSP, there was another way to test for it, but it was more expensive.
Yes,
Have they moved away from mice yet?
I,
not entirely.
Some,
but moving towards,
okay,
yeah. Yeah, I believe that they were discussing shifting their methods, but it is, incredibly expensive to do that. And I know it seems like, at least just in the phone call that I've gotten, that they're doing some other types of samplings with. Can't remember because they told me over the phone. And my brain can't remember anything unless it's written down. Maybe it was like something heavy metal, it was an acronym, but I think it was heavy metals or what's some stuff in water bottles? That's bad.
PSP, plastics.
PSB, or
P
PBS,
something,
PC.
yeah,
PSB,
PC, yeah,
PC.
they were doing
P.
more sampling to look at stuff like that. I don't know if it's a yearly monitoring, I don't know if it's a new, like, let's get a baseline. So that's good. I hope.
I'm looking forward to reading this.
It's a good thing we didn't get a PSP closure this summer, not yet.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
I
don't
don't
think that's still
think we
possible,
will.
but kind of
We
late
still
later.
get
And the
so-
weather, it's,
It's been good.
and it's supposed to be another heat wave next week, isn't it?
I don't think this heat wave is really gonna end.
This isn't
I think
ending.
it just is gonna keep.
Hottest few weeks of the year usually.
Mhm.
It's been a wonky nature spring, I have to say.
Yep.
It's not just
Seems like
shellfish, it's
Mother
just-
Nature's bringing things a little earlier this year.
Mhm.
A lot of
Everything
things were
seems
early
to be
this year, yeah,
Everything seems to be moving up.
Yeah.
except for the Labrador current, which is hanging out, making things cold, which is kind of nice.
So hopefully we get some clam seed this fall and the future, you can see what the future looks like. Right now, we can't, there's nothing.
And it's tough, fall, I'll be able to poke around a little bit more on my end, so.
All right, any other items not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours?
I got nothing.
No, me neither.
All right, with that being said, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. The meeting is adjourned. Keeping these in the great thing is we're keeping it in 1 hour.
Well, some of them do minutes, both Francine and I. And I can't.
I'm gonna end this.
So, and you've seen, they're short.